Today's little video is going to be around the basics, your first starting screens and what to do with an ERP. Couple of concepts first, and that is that this screen, the entire area that you see, is customizable to suit you individually. So in other words, the settings that you make here will suit just you. You can make whatever changes you like to that. And depending on your access levels that have been defined is what options you will see down the left hand side here. You mightn't get all of these options. Some of these may have been turned on or off. If they haven't, you can simply jump in here, customize, and delete whatever tabs or fields or any of those sorts of things that you don't want. Simply up the top here, hit delete, and you can remove the tabs that you don't want to see. You might want to create your own. Let's make one here, and I'm just going to put one button on it. So you can design that screen to look, feel any way you like there. So as you can see, I've removed all those tabs and just given myself the basic buttons that I want to see in. Now again, as part of this, if your access levels haven't already been defined, you may wish to look at what areas you can get access to and not. It just depends on how that's been set up around. So if I wish to turn all those back on again, I come back into Customize, tick Default, and hit OK. And all my fields will come back as I want to see them. When you're looking at each of the tabs, they're in alphabetical order. When you're looking at each of these tabs, so the Sales tab here, you'll notice that across the top, you have an individual entry. So this will give you the ability to create new, whatever it may be. And typically, not always, but typically underneath those is a list of the single entry above. So if I go into my list, there's a list of customers. So single entry across the top, list below that. When I click on my customers, when you look at any sort of list, these are customizable to suit yourself as well. You can also drop in here, change your fonts if you want it a bit bigger. If you wanted to change the color, you can. Give it a different title, all those sorts of things. Or turn on or off fields that you do or don't want to see, like so. So you can change the look and feel of virtually any list or report that you choose, and you can make it yours, effectively. In here as well, you can resize your columns. Just grab the edges. You can move those around as well. Again, that's entirely up to you how to do that. The key to remember though is that any piece of data here, simply double click and it'll take you back to whatever it is that created it in the first place. So now that concept will work right throughout the program. No matter how or where you go, simply double click, you can zoom back to whatever it is. Now don't forget that a number of those different fields will take you to a number of different areas depending on what you drill into. For argument's sake, if we come into our global list here, if I double click on a contact type, it'll open the contact. If I double click on a supplier, it'll open the supplier. Again, double click on a customer, it'll open the customer. So that sort of concept works throughout all the lists. Just be aware of that there. Let's jump into an invoice. And the entry type screens can be modified as well. So these, when you right mouse click, you can customize what you do or don't see in there. Again, that's up to you. And as well, you can move these around inside these screens as well. Add to that, if you go Control, keeping your finger on Control and hit space, you can turn on or off different fields that you do or don't want to see inside the screen. And those will change colors as you do. That will determine your tab order and where it goes and where it doesn't go. And as you can see, I'm now skipping those fields I turned off. Like so. I'll just go turn those back on. Like so. So now when I tab, it stops on them, as you can see. So be aware that there's a couple of ways of changing those around and doing those sorts of things. And remember that if you hold down Control and hit space, you get the ability to determine where the tabs go. So I'll jump back out again. Another thing you should look for is under the Employee tab, you can also define your own personal preferences, i.e. what do I want to see when I turn the computer on, what happens, what's the default list colors, set them up, how far back and forth do I want my lists open to. Remember, the bigger this number, the longer or the more data it's going to take to load. The typical setting on this would be 30, so you would set that to 30 and 10 days forward. For the sample company, we've set it to 360 just to give you a wide range of data. Your pop-up screens and your reminders. What do you want to come up when you first turn on the screen in this reminders list? What do you want to see to pop up? You determine down here under your pop-ups or reminders, and that's a great way of just prompting yourself to go off and do certain things. You also have, you'll notice that you have active windows, so that if I was to open up a couple of windows and minimize them here, we'll just pop a few open like so. If I click on the gray bar down the bottom here, it'll pop open my active windows screen, which when I click on, it'll pop open the list that I'm trying to get to, like so. So again, there's a couple of ways you can set your personal preferences to make that work, and those you define here, as in turn them off, auto pop up when you move over it, or click on status as I do as the grey bar. Also, when looking at your different types of lists, one of the ones that you will use a lot is your product list. And typically you'll find that in the bottom left hand corner of most screens. So there's your product express list there. So when you look at the different tabs, typically you'll find that product express list in that bottom left hand corner. So if I jump back to inventory here it is here. Now there's a difference between the product express list, you'll notice that there's no quantities or anything here, and the actual product list. And you'll notice that there's a little bit longer in opening up the product list because it needs to recalculate all the quantities to give you an accurate indication of what you have in stock and stuff like that. But in most cases you'll just simply use the product express list, this one here, as opposed to your full product list, this one up here. So let's jump into this. Now inside your product list or your product express list, you can do, and again the concept for lists is the same. I'm looking now for a bin, this guy here. If I just start typing, it'll zoom down to whatever I've typed in here as my search function. If I click on different columns, I can search on those columns depending on what I'm wanting to find. So if I'm looking for wheels, I can click once in the manufacturer column, or select it from the drop down here, and again just start typing, and it'll find everything to do with wheels. So you can do that on any column, any list, anywhere you like. Now add to that, once you find a piece of data, and you can see that I have a number here, you wish to filter on that data. So again, if you simply right mouse click, you've got all sorts of filtering options available to you there. Now under the reports filtering video, this will give you a lot more detail, but the one I use a lot is simply hold down Control Shift and N. So Control Shift N, and instantly filters on whatever it is, the records that I wanted to filter on. You'll notice it tells you what the filter is down here, and it gives you an idea of what you can do inside that. Now I'll clear that. That filtering option works on just about every list and every report within the system that you want to do. So a good concept there. You notice as well that you can sort on any column, A to Z, just click on the headers and you can sort them up and down like so. And as well, particularly on your bigger lists, you can go to what's called an F5 function. F5 allows you, if I jump back in, gives you a search mode, a starts with mode, or a like mode. So I'll jump back out again, and like mode opens with nothing in there. So again, if I just start typing and hit enter, it'll only grab the products based on this search column that start with the letters that I've started typing. That's an extremely fast way of operating any list or report. It's almost instant. So you have two modes. You have what we call full, which is full functionality, and the payoff or the cost of full functionality is speed. You lose a bit of speed because it's loading every record. If you want speed, work in F7 mode or like mode. So you get full speed, so it's really fast, but you lose a little bit of the functionality. In other words, you can't see the other records outside a bin. But again, it just depends on what list and stuff that you want to work with that it gives you that idea. So there you go. Now, a couple of other things to be conscious of too is if we go and look at any sort of report here, and this is your report selector, you can define your date range before you open the report. Keep in mind, the bigger the date range, the more data you're grabbing, the slower it will be. So the smaller the date range, the quicker this report will open, like so. Again, you can operate that in your search mode or full, so you can take a couple of choices there. Again, remember, by default, the left-hand column is the default search engine. So again, I can just start typing. I can filter on that, like so, and I can preview those, export those, and do all sorts of things with it. As well, if you have the access to be able to do it, you can come in here and change the color of your screens. So if you want to go strong and brave and stuff like that, you can make your screens look yellow or blue or pink, or again, whatever you choose. So if your access levels allow it, you may want to change different looks and feels around. So let's say I want that to be purple. Ooh. You've got all sorts of choices there, and you can make those. And again, if you do something like I've just done, you can come back and reset the defaults. Hit save, and that'll all come back as you want to see it. So there you go, a couple of basics on how to get around and do a few things. Don't forget at any time that down here under videos, there's a huge range of videos that you can watch to teach you anything, or simply hitting F1 on the keyboard will pop open the help, or simply jump up the top here and pop open the help as well. And again, a huge range of options inside your help here where you can move around and look up different things and what they do and how they work. So there you go. There's a very, very quick overview on ERP and how you can customize it a little bit to suit yourself. Thanks for watching.